Hello, and welcome to It Came from the Unknowns, a weekly sci-fi, horror, short story podcast featuring new, upcoming, or unheard of authors, hosted and narrated by yours truly, Ryan Barella. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the unknown. Welcome to episode 2. Man, it feels like only last week we were starting this off. Because it was only last week. Anyways, thank you for sticking around and sticking with this. I'm excited to see a lot of the stories that are coming in. I'm having a lot of fun reading through them and seeing what everybody's got to offer. Can't wait to see what else comes in. Today's story is called The Shop Curator and the Hyper-Curious Customer by Leon Ricci. Leon Ricci has a BA in Speech Communication from the University of California, Sacramento. After graduating, he worked in radio for a number of years on the air as an announcer. For the past 10 years, he's devoted his life to watching and reviewing movies and has written over 4,300 reviews, 250 to 300 words each, and then has uploaded them to IMDb and Letterboxd simultaneously. You can see them on IMDb and Letterboxd if you look for Leon Ricci in the review section. He also considers himself an amateur pop culture historian. This is his first short story. If you do like what you hear and you'd like to support us, feel free to check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/itcamefromtheunknowns. If you'd like to submit a story, please email me your story in PDF form or link, along with your name and brief bio to itcamefromtheunknowns@gmail.com. For now, get cozy, turn down your lights where applicable, and let's prepare to take a journey into the unknowns. The Shop Curator and the Hyper-Curious Customer by Leon Ricci. Rich Mishlove, the almost handsome owner and only operator of the collectible shop, his 6'2", 180-pound frame folded into a comfortable chair. He found it relaxing seated behind the soft glare of the glass showcase he used to display a wide range of artifacts, the lifeblood of his chosen profession, that of a caretaking curator for the fascinating array of knickknacks and pollywags. Pop culture curiosities that he found joyful and fulfilling, vibrant and full of inanimate life. The inner light was bathing and caressing each with a worthy, warm world that was the surrounding platform. The lot of them hoped for admiration and a possible purchase, a show of some love and respect while bringing out the wonder of all. The warm light seemed like an invention to enhance their already charismatic charms. In no particular order on the inner shelves were, among other items, matchbooks, the ones that said, "Close cover before striking," and advertised an art school correspondence course inside. The outside was reserved as advertising space, customized to specification. A bowl of those filled to the brim. At the opposite end was a black and white, finely crafted resin statue of the female goth character Death, the High Cost of Living, a highly detailed, meticulous rendering from the popular comic book Sandman, for mature audiences, in block letters on the cover. Death first appeared in Sandman, Volume 2, Number 8. The 10-inch tall, alluring collectible was a numbered edition and wasn't in the showcase long, as it was sold the day after it arrived. Death had become an icon, a mysterious antithesis to the muscle-bound males that dominate the superhero universe. Surely she was the queen of the showcase in her short stay, among the other subjects. Many had resided there for months, patiently waiting, while inhabiting their glass-lit world. Spaced evenly, democratically, allowing all, regardless of value, to occupy an equal amount of display for an equal amount of attention. Along with Mishlove's relaxation and daydreaming came memories of his adolescent years, devouring the plethora of black and white photographs courtesy of FJA, Forrest J. Ackerman, who once a month showed off and shared his incomparable collection of sci-fi and horror movie memorabilia with youngsters across the nation from his Acker Mansion, located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, through the pages of his groundbreaking, seminal pop culture magazine, Famous Monsters of Filmland. Issue number 1 hit newsstands February 1958, although Mishlove didn't connect with it until issue number 20, but quickly ordered all the back issues. It was Ackerman and his collection that was the spark of what became, in essence, Mishlove's fixation and devotion to the primitive art world. A long love and fascination with pop culture and everything that goes with. He had discovered the mag at his favorite newsstand called Katie's, a place he loved to browse the splashy, trashy covers, drenched in primary colors, crying for attention. There were paperbacks, magazines, comic books, and newspapers. It was a pastime that has endured to this day, along with those and other pop culture creations authored by unknown faces, barely known artists, toiling to create work that was often neglected. Adding more insults and injuries, those creators were not only neglected but disdained in the fine art world, mostly ridiculed, and were contemptuous of those underling artists from the underclass. Those formative years kick-started a lifelong fascination and appreciation for not only those pen and ink, paint and brush artists, but also classic movies, including, but not limited to, the horror, sci-fi, and fantasy that FJA specialized in. A good-natured punster, Ackerman became known as the first fanboy. Also developing at that wondrous and wild time was Mishlove's dream of owning some of that really cool stuff, just like FJA, and perhaps even a shop, just like the one where he sat and daydreamed, a place to swap and display all manner of ephemera. The proud curator was literally sitting in his dream come true. In those teen years, he learned early on to appreciate what you have in life and often counted his blessings regularly. It was part of his budding philosophy. He had accumulated quite a few blessings to ponder. While he was in the midst of counting those gifts, the jingle of the bell connected to the upper level of the front door jangled and drew him back to contemporary consciousness. Looking up, what he saw was nothing less than a vision, a perfect personification of his ideal projection of a young woman. A dream come true was walking into his dream come true. It reminded him of that oldie song, first recorded in 1933. Did you ever see a dream walking? Well, I did. Did you ever see a dream talking? Well, I did. She was a demure, radiating beauty, a combination of self-confidence, frailty, and a dignified humility, wearing a blue and white calico dress buttoned to the neck with a circular solid white collar that shined with pale blue tint, a reflection from the color of the calico. The dress was form-fitting that allowed her ample, appealing figure to breathe shyfully, protruding through the drapery so as not to be denied appreciation. She bordered on expressing the classic, but her individuality brought more than just that. An artful personification of a young adult female exuding a magnetic component designed to draw in anyone close to her. Looking for anything special? He managed to utter after recovering from that initial attention-grabbing vista. She seemed to vibrate. She was such a special creature sliding majestically into his world. No, she said. I was just hyper-curious, making fleeting eye contact. I guess that's better than being just curious, replied a still mesmerized but able to function Mishlove. Well, let me know if I can help, he added. He pondered what she might be thinking during this first impression, trying to comprehend this beyond the ordinary experience of the everyday, analyzing more deeply and worrying more than normal about what was to follow in the probably brief time she would be in his shop. The awestruck curator had rarely encountered a form such as hers that affected him so deeply, a meeting that meant more, much more than it should, given the parameters of the usual robotic interplay that was the common customer-curator communication, especially in an encounter of the first kind. For Mishlove, this was extraordinary and brought on involuntary palpitations, a noticeable elevated body temperature, and a slight anxiety. He wondered if the surface moisture on his skin, an embarrassing perspiration, was noticeable. He was sweating, no doubt about it. That caused all the aforementioned symptoms to elevate again. He looked around for a liquid to relieve his cotton mouth, another sign this was becoming anything but a normal experience. A goddess of mythic majesty was in his midst. She didn't walk, but glided through the shop. Was he hallucinating, or were her feet not in touch with the ground? Or was that absurd observation only in his mind because of his altered state clouding his perceptions? She seemed absorbed and genuinely taken by the splash of colors and shapes lining the walls and on the shelves, all part of the shop's natural, completely unique display. It was populated by those surviving memorabilia, of yesteryear, antique artifacts that once affectionately adorned a kid's playground bedroom world, pretending youngsters and some grown-up kids too. Things scattered about the shop that were ultimately abandoned, cast aside, and were destined for the Salvation Army or worse, the trash heap. After the new wore off, they failed to retain the attraction and devotion that was at one time fascinating. What she was observing were the lucky ones that now resided here and had escaped an undignified end, and today were serving at the pleasure of the folks and have acquired a certain value in old age. This customer in turn was also being looked upon by the curator as having immense value. Without doubt, he was observing her with hypercuriosity, but that hardly describes it. He hoped that she didn't notice him staring. After a while, that seemed like a heartbeat, but was actually 20 minutes or so, she approached Mishlove with a gleam, or was that an aura? It was noticeable, at least to him. "What an amazing shop you have. I've never seen anything like it." He thought silently, "And I've never seen anything like you." Then he spoke. "Really, thank you. It's a lot of fun passing my days among such a collection. If you can believe it, I can feel a sort of communication and tap into the memories or an historical essence. But I'm sure that's just me messing around and creating a pseudo-biography. I find they all have a certain individuality and charm." And he thought to himself, "But none as charming as you." She did not seem to mind such an odd, geeky thing to say, and seemed to accept his explanation as a normal thing, and not a behavior indicative of a misanthrope or a nerd. Mishlove found that to be flattering, and although she didn't say anything, her look of approval and acceptance was evident by her facial expressions and body language. "Did you find something you liked?" he said nervously. She replied, "I saw this book. It's bigger than a paperback and smaller than a magazine. It has a date on the cover of December 1949. What kind of book is this?" Interesting that she had chosen something that he also found personally intriguing. They were called digests, a printed format that was discontinued mostly in the late 1950s, mid-1960s. "The title, Fate, that's an odd one," she said. Mishlove was delighted. She was inquisitive. He said, "Fate Digest included articles about the unknown, the unexplained, the forces of nature, the mysterious, metaphysics, that sort of thing." He continued, "It has a very wide range, covering other things like ESP, automatic writing, ghosts, the paranormal, the supernatural, ancient civilizations, spirituality, and UFOs, like the one picture on the cover." She looked like she wanted more info. Now, completely engaged by her sincere questions, he felt more comfortable talking with this impossibly cute, lovely lady who rang his bell, and followed with an entrance that sparked a fire that Mishlove felt was raging internally. He tried his best to keep that secret, happily wanting the conversation to proceed. He said, "The cover on that one," pointing to the issue in her hand, "is an artist's rendition of an aircraft whose pilot, Kenneth Arnold, in his in-flight close encounter experience with a fleet of UFOs that he described as behaving and looking like saucers if you skip them across the water. When the press reported on his story, they called them flying saucers, and that was that. The term stuck." She seemed impressed and interested. "I've heard flying saucers, but you said UFOs. You mean unidentified?" Mishlove completed her sentence before she could. "Flying objects." They both smiled. "I'll take it," she said, not flinching at the $50 price sticker. He spontaneously felt a need to explain the high price. He reassured her that the issue she was holding was a rare, highly sought-after periodical that held status in UFOlogy, the paranormal research community, and collector circles. So he told her so, and that the sticker price was reasonable. She spoke up. "Oh, I am sure it is all that. I don't know it, but I feel it. And I'm doubtful that a nice man like you would take advantage and artificially raise the price. I can see it's a precious piece." Not as precious as you, he thought to himself. She turned with a pleasant look and was about to make her way out. Mishlove watched and felt compelled to ask, "What's your name?" She tilted her head back toward him, looking otherworldly wonderful. Her shining hair, the color of a robin's breast, fell softly resting on her shoulder, and she said, "Angela." Then she opened the door, and it happened again. She rang his bell. Frozen, he thought, wait, what just happened? How did she know that of the multitude of memorabilia throughout the shop, I had a personal interest in the content of that Fate Digest? Or was that just a coincidence? Certainly significant, synchronistic, but oh my, did we just connect in some kind of meaningful way? Regaining somewhat his bearings, he went to the window to turn the open-close metal sign around to close, and maybe catch one last glimpse of her as she walked away. But she was nowhere in sight. Strange, because it had only been a few seconds after the door closed. Oh well, just another incident in a series of sensory stimulations that racked his brain and body ever since she appeared. Mishlove flipped the sign, turned out the lights, and headed for home. Arriving at his apartment, he felt so drained and dehydrated, energy depleted, he just collapsed on the couch and fell immediately asleep. The bell. It was ringing again, but from far away. It kept ringing with echoes of yesterday, ringing, getting louder, and finally he woke up. It was the alarm clock. He immediately felt butterflies. Not those pretty creatures, but butterflies in his stomach, obviously resulting from that unusual meeting yesterday. Speaking of pretty things, he couldn't shake it, didn't want to really. He wondered, when will I meet her again? If ever, and what if I don't? What if I do? Each question caused the butterflies to flap and flap. Mishlove tried to forget, or at least put it all in the back of his mind, but it was not going to be. That day was so overwhelming and unforgettable, he felt that he was under a spell. A charming spell, but a spell nonetheless. It was so intense it wreaked havoc, interfering with his most basic functions. Each breath became an effort, each step felt like his shoes were made of lead. Making his way to the shop from the apartment usually took minimal energy. After all, it was located just across the street. Today it felt like it was in a faraway place, that it was not listed on any map or in any telephone book. No signpost. Maybe he was in the Twilight Zone. In fact, no signs of his shop's existence anywhere. Get a grip, he thought. Why is my head spinning and my legs wobbly? As he reached and was about to cross the only street that sliced between the apartment and the shop, suddenly there was a loud car horn blast and he snapped back to normal. No longer experiencing any of the aforementioned systems, no spinning head, no wobbling legs, no butterflies. He was fully awake, completely in control, and it felt once again like any other day. Crossing the street, up 3 small steps, key in the door, metal sign flipped to open, lights on, and everything okay. However, the memory of Angela, and wait, wasn't that her pleasant aroma he noticed? Not like perfume, more like a very subtle form of incense, but not really incense. He now felt a tingly sensation. Entranced and enchanted by that customer of all customers, a once-in-a-lifetime experience it seemed. It dawned on Mishlove that being with her, talking about that Fate No. 1 digest, had been so pleasant that even to this minute he had completely blocked out the fact that she was the only customer that day. This was unheard of. Mishlove had opened the shop 5 years before. It was not a great success, but a success. Many customers showed up on any given day, sometimes as many as 15 or 20, sometimes even more. So only one customer, that made no sense. Just when Mishlove was running that puzzling scenario around in his head, someone rang his bell. He looked up, and there she was. Closing the door behind her that commanded the bright sunlight back into the street, she looked his way and smiled. And what a smile it was. A smile of all smiles. "Hello," she said, making her way toward him. He who was speechless, reeling internally, feeling the whole room circling around him, first slow, but picking up speed exponentially, and right before he was about to pass out, she whispered, "Come with me. I want to show you something." Making her way to the back of the shop, she stopped, turned around, and faced Mishlove, and gestured to him with her mind. "Come here, close to me." He, now awake from his stupor and fully cognizant, went to her, feeling better than he had ever felt in his life. Reaching Angela, she leaned forward until their bodies were flush against each other, reached around and placed her hand behind his head, tilted it forward, and kissed him fully. That was the last thing he felt, as a human being in a human body. The next thing he knew, he was no longer in his shop, no longer on Earth. He was definitely no longer what once was. He was somewhere, someplace, but words failed. He felt like he was made of liquid light, to force a description. He was in motion, destination unknown. Angela seemed like she was right there beside him, holding his hand, but hold on, he didn't have any hands. She explained to Rich Mishlove that soon he would be diagnosed with an incurable disease and he would suffer much pain for a very long time before death arrived. But she could not let that happen, so she arrived and set him free. She was what could be defined as a guardian angel, and although her true being was something more, something else, something all and everything. So okay, an angel. They were following a path, destination unknown. Future. Something new in a new place, where curable, incurable has no meaning and does not exist. What does exist is only eternal bliss. The end. Welcome back. You were just listening to The Shop Curator and the Hyper-Curious Customer by Leon Ricci. Now, that was a kind of a really sweet story, what it ended up turning out to be. I quite liked it, being someone who's a collector of quite a many things myself. It was nice to see how this guy had built his, how it started off as a childhood dream and became his dream come true, up until the time that he himself was collected. So that was really quite sweet. I quite enjoyed that. I hope you did as well. I am definitely looking forward to more stories from Mr. Leon Ricci in the future. Again, if you enjoyed this and want to help support, you can check us out over on Patreon at patreon.com/itcamefromtheunknowns. We have a digital subscription where you can also get an ebook of the stories for each month, as well as a t-shirt subscription which will feature each month's cover. It's a great way to look fashionable and support upcoming authors. Got a sci-fi or horror short story you want to hear narrated out for the whole world? Email me your story in PDF form or link, along with your name and brief bio to itcamefromtheunknowns@gmail.com. Thank you again for taking the time to check out It Came From The Unknowns, a weekly sci-fi horror short story podcast featuring new, upcoming, or unheard of authors, hosted and narrated by yours truly, Ryan Barella. I'll leave you now with one of my favorite lines. It goes, "Let us say then that my listeners are an uncommon herd." Stay weird, everyone.